Mrs. Zaring. Today we are going to do our first lab. Usually when we're in class and we do these, we have a lab manual and we're doing these hands-on, but welcome to the digital world. Myself and our physical science team have worked really hard to make this lab virtual for you this week. So what we are doing today is it's called Lab 3B and it's called Experiments and Variables. And if you would please open up to page 69 in your workbook, where you will find a worksheet to follow along with this lab information and some things that you should be filling out today.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to take over. This is Miss Lewis. So the purpose of our lab today is to perform an experiment. Experiments help us to collect evidence so we can unlock nature's puzzles. If an experiment is well planned, the results can provide an answer to a scientific question like, what would happen if I did this? However, if the experiment is not well planned, you will still get results, but you may not have any idea what they mean. So, we want to front load our experimental setup to have the best results and the best meaning possible. In this investigation, you're going to experiment with a car on a ramp. Only by paying careful attention to the variables can you make sense of the results that we get.
All right, so this is Miss Lucero, and I'm going to help you with our key question. So our key question is what we want to answer through this experiment. And in Lab 3B, what we want to try and figure out is how do we design a valid experiment. On your sheet, you are going to find a spot for the key question, and you're going to copy down how do you design a valid experiment in the blank.
The next type of information we want to front load is the background information. These are terms of vocabulary that we've already gone over in this class, but it's really important to repeat and apply them to current phenomena that we are experiencing. So you're going to write these down in your workbook as we are going through them. The first one is a general variable, which variable, the word vary, just means something that in an experiment that you have the ability to change. An experimental variable, also called the independent variable, is the variable in the experiment that you do want to make a change, so it has an impact on the results of your experiment. The dependent variable, it's the variable that's going to be changing as a result of changing your experimental variable, also known as your independent variable. Lastly, we have the control variable. Control variables are variables in the experiments that we do not have to change. We want to control them so that we have a standard setting that makes the experiment work really well.
Okay, so now we're going to write our hypothesis. We are about to release a car down a ramp with different ramp heights. What do you predict the speeds of the car will be in relation to the ramp's height? Remember, we need to write an if, then, because statement. So, if I release a car at a specific height, then this will happen because, and give your reason. Be prepared to share your hypothesis with the class on Tuesday.
Yeah, be prepared. Yeah, we'll be prepared. For what?
Experimental setup and some of the materials we're using for our experiment today. We have a nice little stand right here that has some holes in it that we can put our ramp onto and connect it to. We have our ramp, which our car is going to be sliding down. Next thing that we'll pay attention to are these little black things right here. These are what are called photo gates. These are kind of like what they use in races if you have like that split-second finish. And they actually use a beam of light to tell who crossed the finish line first. For our purposes, it's going to be measuring when this little car is crossing the photo gate as it travels along the ramp. Both of these photo gates are connected to a data collector, and this data collector here is just a little screen thing, and it tells us what are the photo gates recording. All right. And I have set up my setup just the way I want it. It is perfect. It is great. It's the best setup ever. And I'm going to start collecting data for my experiment using the data collector here. So I'm going to put my car on the ramp, and I'm going to release the car and copy that data down. TA on the data collector refers to how much time was the light in TA blocked by the car. TB is the same sort of thing. How long was the light blocked in photogate B by the car? TAB refers to what was the amount of time between when the car exited photogate A and when it entered photogate B.
Okay, I'm going to do my lab setup for Lab 3B. This is how I think that the lab should be set up. So I put my photo gates here and here, and I think that these look better, like more artistic when they're kind of off-center to the side like this. So just like, gives me more zen. So that's how I'm going to keep it. And I guess my photo gate is all set up. I've got my ramp, and I'm going to release my car. And that's my first trial. I'm going to do it again. Oh, no, I didn't. And let me do it again. I like to do that little, flick of the wrist thing. Gets good data.
Okay, everybody, this is my data setup, and I'm a really good listener. I read all the instructions, so I know that this is exactly how it needs to be in order to get really good results. So let's try it. When you set up the ramp this high, you don't need to flick your wrist. You don't need to give it a happy little nudge because it will go down exactly as it's supposed to. So ready, set, awesome. Okay, and here's my data that I've got on my data collector. This is the result that I should have, so I know I did everything perfect.
So in review, do you think your teachers had a good experimental design? We had Miss Lucero with her setup and results of 0.485 seconds, Mrs. Zering with the flick of the wrist in a time of 0.544 seconds, or Mrs. Lewis, who had the roller coaster ride in a time of 0.218 seconds. And Mr. Sullivan, wait. Mrs. Zering, Mr. Sullivan was teaching class while you were making this video. What a good teacher. Make sure after watching this video you go back into Schoology and answer your Lab 3 pre-lab assignment questions. Question 1 and 2, which have to be answered by 4 p.m. on this Monday. Miss Lucero, my data collector's not working.
Okay, now it's working.
You didn't even get numbers because this can't go.
It's like kindergarten.
Should we say, so that would be like the end of the